Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Tyler Redmond, host of Hunter Ridge Outdoors, coming to you with a very special episode. Today on this episode, I will be telling you guys the story of the Big 8. Alright, you guys, so before we get into the story of the Big 8, just want to let you guys know that I will definitely be keeping you guys entertained during the off season. And I've been excited to do this. I've been thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I've never really done a whole breakdown story of my deer I have harvested, like the Big 8 that I harvested in 2020. Because yes, this was a deer that I had the story of, like, you know, when you go after them for months, years, or whatever the case may be. So I was like, you know what? I want to break this story down and tell you guys the story of this deer I shot in 2020. But we're basically going to start this story back in 2018. So 2018... we've been seeing some really nice bucks behind our house on camera. And this is going back to Big Boy, the biggest buck I ever hunted or had a story of. Unfortunately, was not able to capitalize on that deer. But this was a buck I nicknamed Big Boy. Because, you know, I mean, we hear hunters say it all the time. It's like, hey, it's a great day today to go hunting. Oh, Big Boy might step out. In other words, oh, Big Buck might step out. But I literally had called this deer Big Boy because he was a monster. He was a big boy. Very tall, almost probably 135, 140 inch tall, 8-pointer, clean, you know. But I said, Dad, that's the deer I want to go after right there. He's like, all right, you up for the challenge? Because hunting a mature deer is a lot harder than you think it is. And it's definitely a challenge over a doe or a scrub buck or, you know, anything young. But you're hunting the real deal, the big boy, the king of the woods. So I was like, Dad, that's the deer I want to go after. So and from that moment, I was hooked on just going after a big rack. Like back before then, it was like a brown it's down type thing because hunting was just. Back then, hunting was just like all I wanted to do as far as just shoot. But no, I'm still the same way. But y'all get the gist and everything. That once I saw that buck, my perspective was like, okay, let's do it. Big bucks now. So long story short, 2018 went past, did not kill that big buck. 2019, Big Boy came back with a bigger deer called the Hoss. He was a way bigger deer as far as rack goes. Super wide 8-pointer, huge body. I nicknamed him the Hoss, and Big Boy had come back and he blew up the 2019. Long story short, 2019 goes by, didn't kill Shooter Buck, of course didn't kill Big Boy, and 2020 hits, and of course COVID hits. So we're like, oh Lord, I hope this doesn't affect hunting or anything. And luckily it didn't. But back in March of 2020, we went to the deer show, and so thankful we ended up at this certain booth, the Happy Herd Nutrition's people. You guys gotta go check them out. They got awesome products, and I'm gonna tell you something. Happy Herd was a game changer, and still is a game changer for me and my dad. That's mainly all we use to top out our corn with when we go put it out. We still use Happy Herd. 4 squirts, 5 squirts, 6 squirts, all it takes. Pretty much 4 squirts. But there's something special in that attractant that just, it affects the hormones in the brain of the deer saying, you need to get over here and check this out. They can't resist it. It's like a doe and heath. They cannot resist it. Any deer can't. And there's been tests, and they've been proven, and it's unbelievable. But and I'll tell you why this happy herd is so effective, guys. I mean, seriously, you need to try it out. But basically, to start off, well, of course, my main focus was still Big Boy, who was behind my house, and he blew up and became a 9-pointer. He grew an extra point on one of his racks, so he's basically a clean, tall 9-pointer. And I was like, I'd love to kill that deer, but like I said, all the other places we were hunting, I was like, I would love to kill anything. Right now, I'd like to kill anything bigger than what I've got. And instead of putting one focus on one particular deer, you got many other choices. And I was like, you know what? I'd be stupid if I passed up that deer. That deer's way bigger than anything I got. And at the time, before I killed this deer, the biggest thing I ever killed was like a year and a half or 2.5-year-old basket rack 7-pointer. On Youth Day of 2017, I killed him at 243, and I was, of course, under the age of 18 years old. But late May of 2020, I see this deer for the first time, and there's a bigger deer with him. But of course, he's only got his brow tines in. The velvet's starting its process of growing, getting ready to spread out. The main beam's getting ready to continue out, and but at the time, I had the Big and J to Die For out. And folks, it was so amazing to see their nose absolutely covered in orange where they'd been hitting it. And another thing, Big and J is one of the best products I've ever had. You guys got to go check them out too. Jeremy Atkins, did a podcast with him last year. He was the founder of Big and J. Doesn't own it anymore, but he started the business. And but the To Die For product, oh my gosh, is the best. And the reason I say this is this and the Happy Herd kept those bucks in there forever during the summer. I mean, I never seen anything like it. We're about to get there. So, first time I see this buck, he's with another big buck, and the bigger deer becomes a huge mainframe 10-pointer. And this is at my grandpa's old house where I saw them on camera. And sure enough, not long after that, or like weeks went by, they're back here behind my house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these deer have not been back here before. And I got to looking after cameras and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my gosh, these deer, and yeah, it's easy as pie for them because it's not even a mile and a half. And they're right over here. So, but yeah, we saw them out of the window one evening behind the house. And I got trail pictures of them that day as well. They were eating the Big and J cube out there as well, and stuff like that. And fast forward to this is early June now, and Big Boy has come back. And like I said, he blew up that year of 2020, and so July hits. We're really focused on these big deer and trying to keep them in there. And so far it's working. Definitely keeping them in there. And the Big 8 showed up again early July. And the first time I ever saw him with his rack mainly grown, I was like, that deer has got a beautiful rack. Like, not too wide. It was perfect. It like just comes up and then it comes down, then it just curves, almost comes together. I was like, that deer's got a beautiful rack on him. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'll shoot that deer if he comes out, if I get a chance at him. So, going back, now we're moving on to late July, and that's when the Happy Herd plays an effect, big time. I mean, I've never seen so many bucks at one time on camera. I mean, they are killing the corn all over that Happy Herd. The big 10-pointer was in there. The Big 8 was in there. They were all in their bachelor group. And the one we called the wide 9-pointer was in there. And then Bobtail was in there. Though at the time, a young wide load was in there that ended up being one of the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. He was in there, and another nice 8-pointer, a tall 8-pointer, was in there, which I'll get to that later in the story about what happened to him. But I was like, you know what? I will harvest any of those deer. Like, they're definitely bigger than what I've got. Any of them are. But of course, Big Boy was the one I'd been after for so long, so that's why I wanted him the most. And I had a story going on with him. Now we're rolling on to early August. And we wanted to basically just pull a Hail Mary, just go for it. We got some advice. I was learning from my dad, and of course, I only call Buddy, but my second daddy, or the gentleman who was like an uncle to me, Mr. Greg, that passed away just 2.5 months after, early August. But he was there with us at the house, and we come upon persimmon trees in the property, and I was like, man, this is great. Deer love persimmons. And so we decided, you know what? This is awesome. And so this was right there at the funnel. So basically where our deer feeder was behind our house. Now this is when I'm trying to go after Big Boy. This has nothing to do with the Big 8 until later on. But we're in there trying to debate, do we want to put a stand here? Okay, so the deer feeder's here. And then if you're looking at the deer feeder and the thicket is behind the feeder in your background, the funnel is in the left corner. And when it goes, there's an opening on the right where you just go right. That's where basically the creek was. The start of the creek or the end of the creek. Right there. And but there's persimmon trees all in there, in that area right there at the funnel. And back behind me was a big open field. So we definitely knew that was a good crossing area for the big one. And we decided to put some corn there. And boom, he was there instantly. Right there, we were going to put that stand. But before we put the stand there, we was like, should we put a stand here or in the thicket? Little did I know that patch of thickets that is where I killed this big buck and the big 9-pointer. Both of them were killed in that stand. But in early season, we were trying to debate because the thicket, like I said, so thick, but so many acorn trees in there. So many white oak trees. Should we put a stand there or a stand of the persimmon trees? And we decided, and Greg had made a decision. He said, if I were you, I'd put the stand right here where the persimmons are. But me being young, me being wanting to buck so bad, didn't see anything hardly in there during deer season. But before deer season, that Big 8 was at the thicket and at the funnel during August. And so now he's come back again from Grandpa's old house, and he's brought some buddies with him. It was the wide 9 and the tall 8. So they're hanging out in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're in there more than the Big Boy is. So I was like, if I get a chance at that Big 8, I will shoot him. And I was telling Greg and Daddy, I was like, oh my gosh, they are in there. And then this was late August when they kept coming in there, and I was like, they're coming back and forth all the time. And so now we're rolling to deer season. My main focus is still on Big Boy, but the Big 8 kind of slipped out for a while. Didn't see him for a good while. And tried to go after Big Boy. And one time I was in there in the stand at the persimmon trees, and I don't know if it was him or a doe or whatever deer it was, but they were coming from behind me at last light, and they started blowing. So that was the end of that. And rolling to late September, the whole story of Big Boy continues, where I tried the spot and stalk on him. You know that story, but here's a better idea. If you have never seen the story of Big Boy, of the deer I did not kill, you need to go back and watch that before you watch this right here. If I were you, I'd stop right now and go and watch that video, because it's so confusing to hear 2 deer in one story. But, so the spot and stalk attempt failed after Big Boy, and he didn't come back for a couple more times during that deer season. And we're entered the October lull. Pre-rut's coming though, but it's slow. Not much deer movement, but we do decide to put a stand right there in that thicket after our try or attempt at the persimmon trees. So I decided we need to put a stand up in this thicket. And I'm gonna tell you guys something, but when I did put corn there and the stand, I mean, yeah, it was slow as far as no big bugs, but deer, oh my gosh, they were deer in there, and I was like, I can kill a deer in here. I was like, this is way better than just outside at the feeder. And, but little did I know that late October, we get the call that evening, October 20th, that Mr. Greg had passed away. He was in the hospital fighting for his life, had a second heart attack while in the hospital, coded twice, and y'all have heard the story about that, but he, being diabetic so bad, and still to this day, we are very close with his wife and his daughter, and they're family to us. They're not blood related, but I don't care. They are family to us, and we love them like they were family. And like I said, Greg was like a second day to me. I remember being at the funeral home, and I was crying like crazy. And I just put my hand and patted him, and I said, buddy, I said, I'm gonna get Big Boy for you. Now, now we roll on to, never forget, Election Day, November 3rd, Tuesday morning. I decided to go hunt behind the house. And at the time, I had a couple cameras there around behind the house in different areas. I put up a mock scrape right there at the edge of the woods, right there just behind the feeder. And didn't know at the time, but at 7 o'clock in the morning, that big 8 was coming. Like he was walking the edge of the woods. And it was perfect timing. My strategy was to call every 15 minutes, but every 30 minutes, grunt and rattle. So 6:30, I would rattle and grunt. 6:45, I'd just call. Or no, every 10 minutes, I think. 6:40, 6:50, I'd call. That was too much, what I learned back then. But 7 o'clock, the luck happened. I rattled. 2 seconds when I put that rattle back in my backpack, bam! I hear something and he is coming. As soon as I saw him coming through the thicket, I mean, literally, it was like a bull charging. It was just, I mean, it was, sounded like a bulldozer coming through the woods, and it was the big 8. And he heard that rattle back, and it set him off like putting gas on the fire. I mean, he was ticked and ready to go. Absolutely blown up. He is almost black, super dark brown, postured up, hair swelled up. He's ready to kick tail. And so he comes in front of me, and this is still bow season. I come to full draw, and I had to yank the camera to get in position, and I knew he was coming, but I didn't know if I'd have a clear shot or not. He stops by the time I'm drawn back, and sure enough, he starts walking. He doesn't come to the corn. He comes behind the little the trail. That's basically that. It's a small little trail, little path basically that just goes up the hill before you get into some more thick stuff. And but through that gap is when he just bolts. I mean, as soon as he hit that gap, he was like, he just decided to charge. And I stopped him twice, and I was like, I got my bow drawn back. I'm gonna try a snort wheeze. So I snort wheezed, and I see him, and he is looking. Like literally, he is moving his head. He is trying to look, and trying to see if there's any sign of another buck in the area. And when he realizes that, he starts walking off. And I was like, crap, dang it. Well, the rest I didn't get on film. But that hunt continued. I'm watching him, and he's walking now on the main trail to my right. And he walks behind me. And I keep grunting, and he's coming back. I watch him. He urinates to my right, but it's too thick. I can't get a shot. And he urinates to the right of me. And I think he did a scrap. No, I don't think he did, but it was that was incredible to watch that. But then the morning finally came where the Lord said, here's your buck.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. There he goes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about Mr. Greg right now. Oh, man, we did it. I don't hear him anymore. He might have went down. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out right now. Oh my gosh, that's the big A we've been after for all summer. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hit him good. You see that? We got up on the window. I don't hear him anymore, so he might have went down. Who knows? I just shot the big 8.
Did you really?
I mean, he just came up and his head was down at the to die for, and he wasn't broadside or anything, but I just aimed right there behind the neck, but above the shoulder. He fell down, and then he got back off and ran, but I don't hear him anymore, so he might be down.
Oh, right. Hold on. Woo-hoo! Hey!
No, Dad, I see him. He's down. Oh my gosh. You see this right here? You probably know what that means. The big buck is down. He was standing right here. As you can see, he tumbled right there and ran all the way across from there. And folks, you saw it, I got on video. I'm getting ready to tag this big buck. Folks, this is something real. This is the big 8 we've been seeing behind my grandpa's old house all year with many other big bucks. He ain't the biggest one, but hey, he's definitely the biggest one for me. And there he is over there. You probably see him. And this is amazing. I can't believe it. Thank you, Lord. And I know Mr. Greg's looking above, and I bet he's proud. I hope he's proud right now. And folks, there he is. I can smell his tarsal glands from him, so he was still rutting. But folks, here he is. This is the big 8-pointer that I've been seeing. Oh my gosh, yep, that's him. And folks, this is my muzzleloader I bought earlier this year. My first buck on video, all by myself. My first deer with a gun all by myself. Well, not really. And then basically my biggest buck ever. But my first deer with my own muzzleloader. What a toad. Look at this.
So, but oh my gosh, that was That was an amazing hunt. I wasn't even in there 30 minutes. I hear a leaf crunch and bam, he's right there. I knew the wind was going to the right. I put the Big and J to die for, and I mean instantly with less than 30 minutes, bam, he is there. And he was in different mood than he was that day I rattled him in. He was looking for food. He was hungry. And but that's how I killed him. And that was definitely an emotional hunt, an emotional buck. Definitely the biggest thing at the time, and I couldn't be happier. The first ever deer I'd ever taken with my own muzzleloader I had bought. And first ever harvest while self-filming. And that was a hunt I'll never forget. That was a very special story and a very special hunt and a very special deer. And here's the interesting part. The tall 8-pointer made his way about 4 or 5 miles away from behind my house, which he'd been to before. And that buck was taken by a friend of ours who happened to be one of Greg's closest friends. He was able to take him that year as well. So amazing things happened that year. And yes, that 10-pointer that was hanging out with the Big 8 during the summer, y'all know what happened to him. He got killed by another hunter of whom we're friends with now. But folks, I know that was a lot to unwrap, but I hope y'all enjoyed that. That was a story and a journey and some hunts I will never forget of that deer right there. Many close encounters that year, and of course with Bobtail was before I killed this one. Had an encounter with Bobtail. He got spooked, so we were close. But the good Lord decided to put this deer right in front of me at the right place. The Big 8, ladies and gentlemen.